Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Now this week, Laura's back.
Hey!
For those who aren't familiar with us, who have joined from the last video, normally we're a bit of a double act.
Yeah, turns out a lot of you really hate Goodreads.
Yeah.
Welcome if you're new. We normally talk about sci-fi and fantasy, but this week...
We're getting literary.
Yeah, we are.
We're going to talk about our favourites, our top 10 fiction books.
Hoity-toity.
Hoity-toity. We're talking about the books your English teacher loves.
These are the books that inspired us to get into writing. These are the books that inspired our love of reading before we got into genre fiction. Do you want to kick us off?
Yes, and we're going to take it in turns. And let me preface this. This is not in any particular order, because if you asked me to order these, I would kill you. That was really violent.
That was really violent.
That was really violent. That was really violent. We've recorded this intro too many times. I've kind of lost my sense of decorum. So I'm going to start with this book here. This is Silence by Shusaku Endo.
It's not one that I've read.
So you might not have heard of this book, but you might have heard of the Martin Scorsese film that was released, I think, in 2015. Although you might also not have heard of that because it kind of...
It flew under my radar.
Yeah, but it's a fantastic film and this is a fantastic book. It's about a pair of Jesuit priests who were sent on a missionary trip to Japan in the year 1640. And if you know your Japanese history, that's a very bad time to be going to Japan to be a missionary. Because at the time, they were heavily cracked down on any foreign influence. This was kind of their time of kind of closed borders, and that was the Edo period, basically. This book deals with these pair of missionaries as they kind of deal with the consequences of their proselytizing, how they affect communities, how, the authorities then crack down on those communities. It is a very harrowing book. It has a fantastic end, but don't expect any catharsis. It is an incredible, incredible book. So that's that. Laura?
So from one book that you probably haven't heard of to one book that I think everyone in the English-speaking world has heard of. This is probably a bad addition to use for a video prop because it's just... So I'm going to have to ask Ross to zoom in post.
Okay. You can read that from those 4 pixels.
It's Wuthering Heights, by Emily Bronte.
Oh.
A divisive book, apparently, which I wasn't aware of on our Discord server that we frequent. A lot of people not a fan, which surprised me. This is a classic for a reason. This is the twisted tale of two messed up individuals in a horribly codependent relationship.
Horrible.
If anyone tells you that this is a romance novel, I need you to refer them to the FBI.
or to a therapist.
Or just shove the book so far up there.
Yeah. And look, Fang's joined us.
Hey, buddy.
That's a rare sight.
It's a classic. It's a classic for a reason. It is wonderful. The prose is beautiful. There are certain passages that just always set me crying. It has been the inspiration. Fang.
This video's cursed. You've never done this before. You've never done this before.
It has been the inspiration for books, films, songs. Heathcliff. What's your next one, babe?
Okay, I'm dragging.
Give me the cat.
You take the cat. My next book is also a book set in Japan. It is An Artist of the Floating World by Kazuo Ishiguro. This one is a nice short book, so if you're looking for a little short read. And it is a classic of the unreliable narrator trope from the perspective of a elderly gentleman post-World War II. And it's all about him reckoning with, or perhaps not reckoning with, his part in the Japanese war efforts. It is an extraordinary book, extraordinarily well written. This was the first time I'd ever read an unreliable narrator trope book.
I love an unreliable narrator.
I won't say anything else about it because I think there's things to discover as you read it. It's short enough that you can give it a go. Come on. Kazuo Ishiguro, that's a name. Next book for you. Should I take the cat?
Yeah, you take the cat.
Okay.
Another teeny weeny nondescript book with no dust jacket. Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte this time. We're big Bronte sisters fans at Hardy's Books Towers.
Gosh, the English teacher must have loved you.
Jane Eyre. Do you want to take a guess, Mr. Ross Hardy, at who recommended Jane Eyre to me back in the day?
Barack Obama.
Close, but no.
Dame Edna Everage.
No. My dad.
Your dad?
My dad.
That was not what I expected.
Less believable somehow than Barack Obama and Dame Edna Everage.
It's a wild card. Didn't see that coming. Okay, tell me more.
Jane Eyre is the story of a young woman who is being brought up by her aunt and who goes to work in the service of a rich man called Mr. Rochester.
Okay.
And it is where I said that if anyone ever tells you that Wuthering Heights is a romance, you need to shove it so hard.
You did say those exact words.
Yeah. This actually is a romance, but in true Bronte sisters fashion, it is messed up.
What's going on with the Bronte sisters?
I don't know. I don't do romantasy. I don't really do romance at all. I'm certainly not into chick lit. When I do romance, I want women being trapped in attics, burning houses down, disfiguring their husbands. Until they howl a woman's name into the wind.
Oh my God.
I'm in danger.
It is messed up, but it is extraordinary.
All right.
We love it.
Jane Eyre.
Jane Eyre.
I was wondering whether to put this on the list or not, because you could say there are fantastic elements in it, but I think it kind of swerves more into the magical realism kind of vibe, and that is Boy's Life by Robert McGammon. Tonally, like, it has the coming of age story, a bit like It, or a bit like Something Wicked This Way Comes, which are kind of both kind of horror / fantasy books.
I always thought Robert McGammon was a horror writer.
And he is probably known best for his horror books.
Okay.
But I just say the horror elements in this one are quite light. It's more leaning into the kind of fantastic story element of it. Corey, the main character, is all told through his eyes. You don't know what to expect because the things that happen are just so out there. The best way to say it is for me to say an example, which is that at one point, one of Corey's friends has a very accurate baseball throw and can throw a baseball very far. At one point, he's very frustrated, so he throws a baseball into the sky and it never comes down. And that's the kind of magical reality.
So it's like
which
magical
Corey's living in.
realism.
It is sort of like magical realism, except I wouldn't say it's tonally similar to any magical realism books that you or I have read. It's more in that coming of age kind of vein.
Okay,
Yeah.
My next one is The Old Man and the Sea by Ernest Hemingway, and I adore Ernest Hemingway.
You were telling me about this book this morning.
Yeah. The best way I can describe it is it's about an old man who needs to catch a fish. He hasn't caught a fish for a long time, and if he doesn't catch a fish soon, there's going to be some horrible consequences for him and his family. So he and I think it's his nephew or his apprentice or someone, go out in a boat and they catch the biggest f***ing fish. And they spend like 2 weeks wrestling with this fish.
I mean, that as a premise sounds fantastic.
It's a very short little book. Set in the Gulf Stream off the coast of Havana, Hemingway's magnificent fable is the story of an old man, a young boy, and a giant fish. It's so lean. There's no, like, fluff to it. It's just beautifully crafted. Mwah.
I mean, Hemingway famously wrote the poem, the highest economy of letters of words ever.
yeah.
The 6-word poem, for sale, baby shoes never worn.
Oh.
So it's not surprising that he is such a lean,
It's an extraordinary book, and
Yeah.
you can read it in in an afternoon.
I'll take that. I'd like to read that.
Honestly, it's incredible. Of my list of 5, I'd say Old Man and the Sea is the one that I would say, if you haven't read this, go and read Old Man and the Sea.
I've got that now. It's
Yeah.
mine. You're not having it back. So next book on my list is, again, sort of one of those genre kind of question mark books. You could say it's a horror book, but I think it's kind of more of it's a classic ghost story, and classic ghost stories to me kind of fit in the vein of M.R. James, or Edgar Allan Poe. This here is The Woman in Black by Susan Hill, and this is the first edition, in fact.
I didn't know we had that.
Yeah,
Is it insured?
it's not that expensive. It's like So what makes The Woman in Black so great? It's similar in some senses to what makes Old Man and the Sea so great. It is a story very leanly told, but told with the most incredible craft. It is a book of atmosphere, a book that does all the tropes in the best possible way. I also highly recommend, there's a really good production on Audible of this book as well, which is full of kind of atmospheric sounds and creepy pads and all that kind of thing. and it really enhanced it. I really enjoyed that. I guess I am attracted very often to books that have a classical style to them. You know, a book that feels like it could have been written, 100 years ago or earlier, like this. Also, like Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell.
I knew you were going to say that.
I just love books that are trying to evoke something from another era. All credit Susan Hill, who wrote a fantastic book in here. I haven't seen the film though, so.
Is that the one with Harry Potter in it?
It's the one with Harry Potter in it. Okay, what you got next?
The book that needs no introduction, really. To Kill a Mockingbird
Oh yeah.
by Harper Lee.
Gosh, you've really gone for the classics.
I really have. Tell me in the comments that I've gone for all the cliches. I don't care. There's a reason that they're a cliche. The unforgettable novel of a childhood in a sleepy southern town and the crisis of conscience that rocked it. Extraordinary. Beautiful. It won the Pulitzer Prize. It was made into an incredible film. Just the most moving, heart-wrenching, wonderful book. It's the sort of book that I think I read it and I put it down and then I picked it up and reread it again about 3 days later. A staggeringly good book.
It's amazing that until they found Ghost Letter Watchmen, that this was like, Harper Lee's one and done.
Yeah.
She was like, I've written a perfect book. I'm done. Write another one.
And she didn't need to publish another one. This is my hot take. I don't think they should have published Ghost Letter Watchmen.
If you've written a book this good, you kind of, how do you follow that up?
When I grow up, I want to be Harper Lee. I want to write one really, really, really good book and then just bank on that for the rest of my life.
I mean,
that's the dream,
that's
isn't
the
it?
dream. That's the American dream.
What's your next one, my
Speaking
love?
of the American dream.
Oh, very good.
Very good segue. My last and final favourite fiction book is Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck.
Very good book.
Yeah, and this is the book that taught me that books can be beautiful. I had no concept of beautiful prose before I read this book, and I read it in school. So there you go, English teacher. Thank you, whoever it was. It might have been Mrs. Smith. Thank you, Mrs. Smith. It's the most beautifully written book with incredibly well-drawn characters, the most heart-wrenching ending, but even better than the ending, the beginning. The first chapter, the description of the scene.
It's incredible.
Yeah, that was the bit that made me kind of love books.
Do you know, we're both writers, and I read a lot of, articles about writing your own novels, and they always say you need to hook your reader immediately, get straight into the action. And then I think of Mice and Men, and the same in East of Eden as well. He spends quite a long time just painting a picture of the landscape.
A few miles south of Soledad, the Salinas River drops in close to the hillside bank and runs deep and green. The water is warm too, for it has slipped twinkling over the yellow sands into the sunlight before reaching the narrow pool. On one side of the river, the golden foothill slopes curve up to the strong and rocky Gabilan Mountains. But on the valley side, the water is lined with trees, willows, fresh and green with every spring, carrying in their lower leaf junctures the debris of winter's flooding, and sycamores with mottled white recumbent limbs and branches that arch over the pool. On the sandy bank under the trees, the leaves lie deep and so crisp that a lizard makes a great skittering if he runs among them. Rabbits come out of the brush to sit on the sand in the evening, and the damp flats are covered with the night tracks of coons, and with the spread pads of dogs from the ranches, and with the split wedge tracks of deer that come to drink in the dark.
It's so evocative. It paints such a complete picture.
Are you there? I'm there.
I'm there.
Shame we can't all write like John Steinbeck.
Yeah.
And we have to rely on action.
Yeah.
Laura, what's your final book?
Okay, my final one is The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath.
Laura, your list is such a heavy-hitting list.
Yes. 4 out of 5 of mine have been written by women.
Oh, we like that.
But yeah, The Bell Jar, it is... Sylvia Plath, best known as a poet, actually. This was her only novel. It follows a young woman as she takes up a summer internship as a writer at a magazine, and it's all about the thoughts of this young woman during that period. It's by no means a very plot-heavy book. It's very much more character-focused, and it focuses mostly on this one POV character, Esther. It's semi-autobiographical.
Oh, is it? Okay.
So one poignant thing that we know in retrospect is that it has themes of and Sylvia Plath did go on to not that long after this was published.
Ooh. Okay, it sounds very dark.
It's dark, but it's amazing.
And then why would you recommend this book to someone? What's so good about it?
It's just so timeless. It's beautifully written. It's so thought-provoking. I think if you're a young woman coming up in the world, questioning her place in society, if you want to feel seen and feel like you're not mad that people have been there before, it's an incredible book. Incredible. And I read it at exactly the right time for me. I just wish that Sylvia Plath had better support network around her.
Yeah.
And that she would have been able to get through her struggles and produce more wonderful works of literature like this.
Well, on that cheery note, go and like and subscribe.
Yeah.
We really value your support. Thank you so much for all the love you've been giving to our last video. It's been amazing. And it really does make us feel,
like it's been worthwhile.
Like it's worth doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you want to add to that support, click on that like button down below. And another way you can support us is by heading over to Instagram at Hardy's Books and give us a follow. Kind of post just bookish content there.
Yeah, mostly just bookish content. Sometimes
Memes.
pictures of the cat.
Pictures of the cat. Yeah.
It's me that mostly does the Instagram, and it's mostly just me posting.
And we are also a book business. We sell books, so head over to hardysbooks.co.uk to see some of the rare antiquarian signed first editions of various sci-fi and fantasy books that you can purchase.
Yeah. Have you read none of the books that we've mentioned? What are your thoughts?
Pop them down in the comments below. We want to know what your top 10s are for non-sci-fi / fantasy books. What are your recommendations?
And we're just so grateful for all the love and support. We hit 1,000 subs last weekend, which just is mind-blowing, considering we've only been doing this since September. To think that there's 1,000 people that care what us two weirdos have to say.
9 months, the pregnancy of a 1,000 subscriber threshold
I don't know.
Gestated.
I don't think I even know 1,000 people in real life, so there's no way that it's just like people that I know IRL that are just like following out of sympathy.
Prove your reality, please, by leaving a comment. All right, okay, this has gone back.
As always.
As always. Okay, all right.
Bye-bye.